Brazil is an initiative supported by the European Union, which has the main purpose of strengthening the relationship between Europe and Brazil in terms of science, technology, and innovation. It's a great pleasure to have you. We are starting today a series of roundtables with the representatives and companies of different European Union countries, so that together we can learn a little more on what are the experiences, what are the good practices, what are the lessons learned, but also what are the challenges in making the partnerships between European countries and Brazil perfectly work and deliver some good results for both the countries in Europe and Brazil. It is my great pleasure and my great honor today to have several representatives of the European Commission, of Austria and Sweden companies and representatives, because today at this roundtable we will exactly debate a little more on what are the experiences of Sweden and Austria. So we'll have Mr. Michele Villani, who is the head of the trade section of the European Commission. Then we'll have a first panel with two representatives of Austria, Mrs. Marianne Schäfer, who is the Technology and Innovation Manager of Advantage Austria, and Mr. Jacob Lassar, who is the Communication and Marketing Manager of Advantage Austria. And we'll have also a representative of Sweden, Mr. Andrea Rettner, who is the Trade Commissioner and Country Manager of Business Sweden. So this will be our first panel, a 20-minute panel to learn a little more on what are the tools and the possibilities to make this partnership work. Then we'll have a second panel with some representative of companies. So we'll have Mr. Alexandre Boni, who is the sales manager at Fronius do Brasil. Then Mr. Gustavo Bonini, director of institutional and governmental affairs of Scania Latin America. They will have also a 20-minute panel. Then we'll have a question and answer session. And I would like please to encourage all of you who are watching us on YouTube to go through the YouTube channel and deliver your questions so that you can have a very dynamic debate together. But let's get started. I would like to give the floor right now to Mr. Michele Villani, who is the head of the trade section of the European Commission, so that he can please give us his opening notes. So please, Michele Villani, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here with you, and let me thank the ENRICH initiative for inviting me. I'm heading the commercial section of the EU delegation in Brasilia, which represents the European Commission and the EU institutions. I'm happy to be here to share with you this interesting discussion today. I have just a few minutes to give you an overall picture on where we stand in the Brazil-EU relations. Basically, let me give the frame of where we operate and underline that with Brazil we have a strategic partnership since 2007, which is based upon a number of commonalities on the political, economic, cultural, investment and trade side. And in terms of economic and trade relations, we should know that the EU is the second biggest trading partner of Brazil, accounting for something like 18% of Brazil's trade, external trade, and with an important exchange, annual exchange of something like 65 billion euros of bilateral trade. Basically, the relationship is very dynamic. Brazil exports primary goods and raw materials to Europe, whereas the EU exports to Brazil mainly capital goods, manufactured products, and chemical. The trade is very complementary, and this relationship is reinforced by an important services trade of about 23 billion euros, and this supports the trading goods and complements this strong economic partnership. Investment is also very important. Brazil is the third investment destination of the EU after the US and Switzerland, it accounts for Brazil is the major destination in Latin America, of course, accounting for 48.5% of overall investments to Latin America, and something like 83% of investments to Mercosur countries. So this is an important relationship with an FDI, foreign direct investment stock of something like 350 billion euros. So 350 billion euros of FDI stock of EU investment to Brazil. So as you see, the relationship is very rich. Economic integration is very important. EU investments are materializing into a number of greenfield investments in Brazil in different areas, from automotive to foodstuffs, chemicals, but also in the services area. Let me quote telecom, let me quote assurances, banking sector. So the EU investments in Brazil are very, very significant. And many EU companies count on their operations in Brazil to take the best possible benefits from their operations. So many European companies who invest in Brazil have very profitable operations in Brazil. So against this background of tight economic integration, we have negotiated an important agreement. After 20 years of negotiation, last June 2019, the European Commission concluded negotiations for an overall EU-Mercosur association agreement, which is a mixed agreement having an important trade part, but also an economic and a cooperation and political pillars, with an agreement between the two blocks, knowing that Mercosur is the fifth biggest economic bloc outside the EU, and this is the biggest the most important agreement of the EU, because it will materialize into 4 billion tariff savings for the EU against a protected market, which is the Mercosur market, which will dismantle its protection over time, allow market access for European products, and of course the European market will accept tariff-free exports from Brazil as well. So market access will be improved, not only for goods but also for services, public procurement, alignment with international standards, regulatory cooperation, standards, alignment, and so on. So this is an important element of the trade part of the agreement. And of course, what is important is the sustainability part of the agreement, because it reinforces through an important trade and development, sustainable development chapter, the relationship on sustainability between the parties in terms of climate change, in terms of environment, in terms of deforestation, in terms of biodiversity, and so on. All areas to which Brazil is committed, and its commitments, international commitments, will be enshrined are enshrined in the agreement, particularly in the trade and sustainable development chapter of the agreement. So I'd like to conclude here, underlining that we have an important economic partnership, apart from political and cultural partnership, that we have a new agreement which has been negotiated, which has an important political cooperation, but very much so trade, a part which will support investments even more, particularly on innovative investments in the areas of science and technology. So this agreement will serve the purpose of our ENRICH objectives as well. So the support for investment, for innovative investments, will directly come from this agreement between the two blocs, which will inter alia facilitate also the structural and economic reforms of Brazil towards a more liberal, less protectionist, a more market, more orientated towards global value chains and international, the international investment marketplace. So I'd like to stop here, saying that this agreement is now heading towards the signature. It will be signed and then ratified by the parliaments in the EU and in Mercosur countries. I hope I managed to give you an overall picture, although I had very limited time, about the trade and economic relations and the new EU-Mercosur agreement, which is now about to see the light of the day in the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your notes. And thank you for all the facts and data that help us understanding the importance and the intensity that we have in terms of partnerships between the European Union member states and Brazil. This was actually very, very important for opening the session today. Now I would like to give the floor to our representative from the two countries that we have today in our first roundtable, the representative of Austria to start, then we will listen to Sweden. So please, Mrs. Marianne Schäfer, who is the Technology and Innovation Manager of Advantage Austria, I would like to give the floor to you in order to explore a little more on what are the opportunities on the perspective of Austria. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, hello, Felipe. First of all, thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting us for this roundtable. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Marianne Schäfer. I am the Technology and Innovation Manager at Advantage Austria, Brazil. I'm going to start my presentation. Just one second. What is Advantage Austria? Advantage Austria is the internationalization agency of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. In terms of Brazil, we are the first door to Austria. Our primary focus is to help Austrian companies that are interested in the Brazilian market. So we provide them with business support, business development, and market intelligence. We also organize events, not only networking events for Austrian for the Austrian business community here in Brazil, but also incoming missions from companies coming from Austria. Although we mainly assist Austrian companies, we also provide Brazilian players with in-depth information on Austria as a business location and assistance accessing Austria's rich innovation system. Brazil and Austria have a long shared history of diplomacy and cultural ties, as well as a strong business relationship. Today, Brazil is Austria's biggest trade partner in Latin America. This is the result of this partnership, the companies. Today, there are more than 200 Austrian companies with local operations in Brazil and more than 45 Brazilian companies with operations in Austria. Some Austrian companies you may know, like Red Bull, here in Brazil, like Red Bull and Swarovski. But also that we have lots of niche companies like Andritz, AVL, Biomine, Plus, and Fronius also. One of the main reasons for this strong business ties is a double taxation treaty established in 1976, one of the oldest ones Brazil has. It optimizes taxes for Brazilian companies interested in establishing themselves in Austria. Another important formal step towards cooperation came in 2019, last year, when Brazil and Austria signed an agreement on scientific and technological cooperation. Among the goals of this pact is to establish a framework for cooperation in research, expanding and strengthening activities in areas of common interest, thus encouraging the application of results for economic and social benefits. Marcos Pontes, the Brazilian Minister of Science, Technology, Innovation, and Communications, went to Austria to sign this agreement. And at the time, he signaled a special interest in two areas, which is smart cities and nanopropellers. We were asked to talk a little about the challenges that companies deal with when they want to do business in Brazil, when they want to cooperate with Brazil. These issues come up quite regularly in interactions with Austrian companies. First one would be complex tax and regulatory systems. More than 19 taxes, duties, and contributions are charged in Brazil, and all taxes are based on different government spheres, federal, state, and municipal, so it can be quite overwhelming for foreign companies, for Austrian companies, but for foreign companies to understand that. Bureaucracy is also an issue. Brazil ranked 124th out of 190 countries in the World Bank's latest annual global report, which evaluates the ease of starting a business, among other things. On average, it takes 11 procedures and 70 days to start a business in Brazil. It's better than it used to be, but it needs improvement, and it's still an issue. Corruption always comes up. Since 2014, Brazil's score in Transparency International's corruption perception index has been falling, and in 2019, the country, Brazil, was ranked 106th out of 198 countries. And a last issue that is, I think, also always there is the volatility of the Brazilian economy, the boom and bust cycles. So the Brazilian economy's lack of continued growth or lack of stability makes the country a bit quite unpredictable, and it can drive away lots of investments and business opportunities. So so that's what I wanted to address. My colleague Jacob Lassar will carry on the presentation, addressing other themes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for your presentation, and really good to know that Advantage Austria is here to help, right, to face all these challenges. So we'd like to give the floor now to Mr. Jacob Lassar, Communication and Marketing Manager of Advantage Austria, to continue the presentation on the Austrian experience. So please, Jacob, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon in Europe. Thank you very much. So, Marie, if you could just go to the next slide, just like to give a quick overview of the projections for the near future. When we look at this next 6 months, it's obviously everything is up in the air because of coronavirus. That's not specifically for Brazil, but that's I would say probably for a global economic perspective, trade perspective. It's a bit difficult to foresee the near future in a more short-term period, but it's not looking too good at the moment. In the midterm, we do expect more growth, and in 2021, 2022, and 2023, we believe that we will believe that the exports will grow more and will go back to normal levels, so at least levels that we had before the pandemic and the crisis. We also, I think there's a bit of a formatting issue here, but I would also say that we also expect Brazilian companies to have better and more direct access to the Austrian innovation ecosystem through these agreements that my colleague mentioned before, through the agreement between the Brazilian government and Austria regarding smart cities and nanotechnology. I think these agreements will help tremendously. Just as an example, just to give a real-life example of what this means. So in Vienna, we have something called the Seestadt Aspern. It's a EU pioneering project in smart cities, and it's almost like a city in a city, and this whole neighborhood is managed by a special consortium. And what they do together with the city of Vienna, and what they do is they use special smart city technology, a sort of a wide array of different technologies, to create this neighborhood and to create sort of a pioneering project in smart city planning, urban planning. So it's a tremendously interesting project to look at if you're in the business of smart cities, if you're in the business of smart energy, if you're in the business of smart transport, mobility, urban planning. It's a very, very interesting project. And what our colleague did last year was to bring a delegation from Brazil to Vienna to sign an agreement of memorandum of agreement. And this kind of technology and agreement will certainly be beneficial to a lot of Brazilian companies who want to acquire smart city technology from Austria, in which Austria is very forward thinking. I'm married to the next slide. We have, when we talk about funding and support for Austrian companies, the main organization is Advantage Austria. We are Austria's trade promotion agency. So every Austrian company who wants to export or who wants to invest abroad can access Advantage Austria's resources. We're here to help Austrian companies go abroad. And in this, Advantage Austria has a special program called Go International. It's this program to support exporting companies from Austria. It's a joint initiative by the Federal Ministry of Economy, Family, Youth, and the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. And Advantage Austria is sort of implementing this project. What does it do? It motivates small and medium enterprises to internationalize. It supports experienced companies with developing new business in new markets, mainly overseas. It promotes the export of services, educational services, creative industries. It also promotes Austrian foreign direct investments in future markets, and it creates a modern image of Austria abroad. So it also has a PR function. So this is a fantastic program for every company, or not for every company, but for certain companies to use and to go abroad. It's a support program. There's also the Österreichische Kontrollbank. It's Austria's official export credit agency. And with this credit agency, Austrian companies can mitigate risks through export guarantees. So these are very efficient and very good support mechanisms that Austrian companies can use and take advantage of. Next slide. Just so everybody knows, my colleague is sort of controlling the slide, so that's why I always say next slide. Recommendations in promising sectors. Just the key thing, the key areas of collaboration between Austria and Brazil at the moment. We have renewable energies. Austria is sort of is a global leader in green technology. There's even a green tech valley that's sort of stylized as the Silicon Valley of green technology in Austria. And it's sort of a hub in the middle of Europe of really market leaders. We call them hidden champions in within green technology. There's also precision farming is a big focus, or companies focusing on precision farming solutions, solid waste management companies, also a lot of them based in this green tech valley. We have automotive and aerospace technology companies which do trade with Brazil. There's tourism, which is a completely different thing. It's not a specific product. There's smart cities, as I mentioned before, mobility and railway, sort of transport technology, oil and gas, mining, and consumer goods. So these are the key areas of collaboration between Austria and Brazil. Now, recommendations for Austrian companies who might be listening, or somebody who might be listening who knows somebody who has a business in Austria. Basically talk to us, talk to Advantage Austria. We have offices in over 70 countries. We are the trade promotion agency. We do troubleshooting. So if a lender doesn't pay back money in the local market, we do business development. So as an example, if a wine producer of Austria or a renewable energy producers is looking for an import, is looking for a local distributor, we can do that from here. We can create events. We sort of help. We are sort of the extended arms of the Austrian companies abroad, and we also provide market intelligence as well. So this is these are the main recommendations and the promising sectors for Austrian companies operating in Brazil. And with that, I would like to conclude the presentation of Advantage Austria. Thank you very much again for having us. And of course, if anybody has any questions, I think there's a question and answer session towards the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Jacob. Wonderful. Thank you for presenting us the priority sector. That's very interesting. And thank you once again to Advantage Austria to be here and help for this partnership. Now we're going to switch to Sweden in our first panel, and we'll have the opportunity of listening to Andrea Rettner, who is the Trade Commissioner and Country Manager of Business Sweden. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. We can hear you.
Very good. Just checking the technique here. So, and you can see my screen as well.
But we cannot see you for the moment. I think you have to switch on your camera and also put your presentation on.
Okay, sorry. It was supposed to be on. Bear with me, everybody. Apologize for this. Share. Forgot to push the magic button. You will soon be with me. You should see.
Now.
Very good. So let's start from the beginning. Thank you so much for the invitation here today, and thank you Advantage Austria for confirming a lot of the conclusions that I was going to draw myself here, and I think that just strengthened the view on EU member states keeping the same line here. I'm very glad to be here today presenting Sweden, and I am the Trade Commissioner for Sweden in Brazil, with long experience also from Europe before coming to Brazil. So I will be quite brief. I know we're running on a short agenda, so I will not duplicate what some parts that Advantage Austria put forward in a favorable way, and try to focus on what has not been covered so far. So with that said, of course, I need to do a short introduction who we are, and we are Advantage Austria, but we are Business Sweden, so the Swedish version of that. We are global business developers with a unique mandate to help Swedish companies and Swedish industry to grow their global presence and global business, but also then supporting with the investment promotion for foreign investors to establish in Sweden. We have a business consultancy toolbox to do that with market expansion, sales acceleration in the market, and not the least business to government affairs, as we are a semi-governmental organization falling under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That means that we work very closely with embassy here in Brazil. We are sisters and brothers, and then we have a few cousins as well, being the chamber, the Swedish Chamber of Brazil, and also the innovation center called CISP. So Sweden has a quite big footprint in Brazil. It's around 200 companies that has a physical establishment here, and then another 400 or 500 that do business with Brazil. We also have a strong relationship with Brazil, none the least given that our Queen Sylvia, is half Brazilian. So that helps in more official activities as well. When we look at our presence in Latin America, we are spread it out in a few selected markets. Obviously, the ones that we see has biggest potential for Sweden and Swedish industry to create strategic partnership in Americas. We formed a strategic partnership with Brazil 2 years after the EU strategic partnership, so in 2009. And that has been based on a triple helix approach, so meaning the governmental, academia, and industry working together. It built up on several different blocks, both the political blocks, and then we have the innovation blocks, and then we have the trade blocks. Focus industries has been identified as aeronautics. I will soon come back to this topic. Bioeconomy, Internet of Things and tech, smart cities, healthcare, mining, and defense. Again, of course, this is not areas that you would be surprised to see on this list. It's strong foothold in Brazil, but it's also areas where Sweden can contribute and have a leading position on a global level. More thematics that we are looking at in current strategic plan is digitalization, education, and financing. Those are really the main areas, all with the idea of increased productivity and global competitiveness. Sustainability, I would say, is sort of an overarching and a condition to do business as well, that there is always a sustainability aspect to what we do. So why Sweden? Why have Brazil chosen Sweden, this small country that is sort of punching above its waist all the time? Well, we are an innovative, stable economy, easy doing business with a strong, productive workforce and good infrastructure with high tech maturity. So that is what when we're selling Sweden. But I'm not going to sell Sweden too much today. That's about it, more or less. Instead, we lean towards our companies, and I will give you some references and insights now based on the view of the companies here in Brazil when it comes to opportunities and challenges. As I mentioned earlier, we have a few focus areas, and these are very well matched with the demand and the supply aspect, with several Swedish leading companies being established in Brazil, as the model in Brazil has been produced in Brazil for Brazil. We hope with the EU Mercosur agreement that we will see a sort of a change in that will become a game changer in terms of how to do business in Brazil. But still, we know it's a relationship-based economy, and it's very important with local presence. As said, I will not go into more details about Sweden specifically. I will talk a little bit more on the general terms, and we know that the business climate out there is tough. It's black and red in many sense, and even if the forecast changes weekly, we know that it's a tough year. So what we've done is that we've done we do actually annually a business climate study with the 50 largest Swedish companies in Brazil, and I will share some insights from these now with you. It was performed in May, so somehow it's a little bit old data, but still fresh enough, and I would say the picture is quite similar today. When we look at the outcome or the perspective of the coming 12 months, we see that in terms of turnover, more than 50% of the companies say that there will be a hard hit in the coming 12 months. But I think the good sign here is that still almost 1/3 say that they will have a sales growth. So not everything is pitch black here. Pitch black. When it comes to investments, it's similar. And what we see is that the larger companies that are suffering the most, while we see that smaller companies, more agile and maybe operating in areas such as digital, healthcare, or food area, e-commerce is actually going fairly well. The positive thing is also that none of the companies in the study foresee that they will leave the market. I'm coming back to that as well. Looking at the next picture here, it's a little bit about the business climate, the overall view of the business climate. And why I've made a green circle here is that we still see that around 45% of the Swedish industry in Brazil have sort of a positive or a neutral view on the business climate. So it's not, again, as bad as you might think. And then looking back at the history, we don't really have time for that now. But obviously, I think anyone has been following Brazil can also understand the staples here, what has happened in 2016-17, and then some optimism came in 2018. Then 2019, the reform program might not have delivered as quick and efficient as what expected, and therefore the slightly more neutral stand was there in 2019. But I'm running on here. What are the changes then for business in Brazil? And this is quite applicable on a global level, I would say. Well, it's the digitalization that sticks out. It's the change in how we perform business, virtual meetings as we're doing now, home office, etc., social behavior, changes in that, but also a lot of focus on supply chain, healthcare, safety and security. And within all of that, we see sustainability as a central theme. Changes from or challenges from a post-COVID business landscape perspective, the competition from East, how to tackle that, how will that develop? Going from globalization to regionalization. Therefore, how can Latin America maybe become a region to focus more for European countries? A new wave of infrastructure investment. It has been clearly need of that in these times. And then the offline to online, and also the increased servitization trend in the society. I realize I will probably leave you with a few of these slides afterwards, but there are some takeaways here also on the advantages with Brazil when you look at it from an access to the market and to build business. And there is a lot of good things to be raised here with professionally companies run, access to suppliers. There is competence and enough competence in the market. Still, we're talking education because we need to make the next step in the transition here for a more digital economy. At the bottom, I think Advantage Austria already touched upon this. The Custo Brasil, as it's called or referred to, the red tape, and also the customs. And here the EU Mercosur agreement comes in. So what can we do? Well, we do support Swedish companies in entering the market and also developing the market, and there are different programs for that. Subsidized program are normally focusing on Swedish startups and SMEs, but the majority of our business is actually with more mature companies, and they are very important because they are the ones with more muscles that can make the changes needed, and then the SMEs and startups can come and nurture on that. We also have innovation initiatives and platforms for that, specializing in certain areas such as mining, life science, smart cities, bioeconomy, and aeronautics. Aeronautics, not the least, with fighter aircraft Gripen that has been developed in, I would say, the largest export deal ever for Sweden, and probably the largest exchange knowledge project for Brazil with Sweden as well. So what is the success recipe? Well, to summarize it, I would say to have a long-term view on Brazil. It's a volatile market. Form strong partnership and invest in the relationship. Do not fight it, work it. With that, I mean there's a need of a high degree of adaptability in this market, and always keep a high standard. And with that, I mean transparency and following the rules and orders. So key areas to have an extra view on, I would say, is digitalization, education, and sustainability. And remember that the sky has no limits if you have the right setup here in Brazil. And what you're seeing on this picture is then the first Brazilian fighter aircraft produced jointly between Sweden and Brazil. So with that, leaving you with a sustainability topic. Later on, be looking forward to hear also Scania's view as one of the Swedish company representatives in this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your very interesting note. And it's very good to see the strong and the wonderful presence of Swedish company in Brazil, just as we've seen also for Austria. Let's switch now to our second panel, where we're going to listen to some companies, Austrian companies, Swedish companies. And let's get started with Alexandre Borin, who is the sales manager at Fronius do Brasil. Alexandre, thank you so much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you for this invitation to participate of this meeting today, and also the opportunity to present Fronius, the company that I'm the BU manager of solar business at Fronius here in Brazil. And Fronius is an Austrian company, so I will switch now to the presentation so everybody knows who is Fronius and how we act here in Brazil.
We can see your presentation. Go on.
Great. So where everything began. So Fronius, it's a company that was born in 1945 with Mr. Günther Fronius, that you can see. He is here with his car and charging the batteries. The perfect charging is one of the three views that Fronius has. And Mr. Günther Fronius started with that product in Austria, so like in the last century. So as I told you, we have three business units. We have a solar business, solar energy, where we manufacture inverters for the solar market. We have the chargers that we manufacture especially for logistic markets. And you have the welding machines especially for the automotive industry. So Fronius is a very B2B company. So we are not so famous like other companies like Swarovski or Red Bull, and the common Austrian companies, but we are very famous in the B2B sectors. So perfect welding. So it started in 1950, developing welding machines, and today it's one of the world leaders in this technology, especially for the automotive segments and yellow goods and general industries today. Perfect charging. So we also manufacture chargers for cars and especially for logistic segments. So this is very specific for this kind of application. And here is the area that I work, that is the solar business. So we manufacture the inverters, which is the core of the solar system. The inverters is the product that exchange the electricity or the energy from the solar radiation to the grid. So this is really the brain of the system. So we have electronic components here, and this is the most important component of the solar system. In Brazil, we are so the inverters we manufacture since 1992. In Brazil, we started this business in 2012, in the very beginning of the market. Okay, in Brazil also, we have been selected 4 times as best manufacturer of inverters in the last 40 years. So we are very famous in this market. They're quite new markets, and Fronius is one of the pioneers in this segment, which now our brand position is quite high. Basically, we are working today in the residential segments, small commercial and medium commercial systems. Here, there is a video that you can see. We produced that video last year to our Austrian colleagues to present our home here in Brazil. Yeah, so just telling a little bit more about Fronius. How was our growth since we started here? So Fronius is in Brazil for 18 years, and from 2003 to 2016, we grew 38%. But with the solar business, that is really now in its exponential growth. So we grew 62% in 2 years, in 3 years. So because of this growth, Brazil today is ranked in the 3rd position as a subsidiary in Fronius. Fronius has more than 30 subsidiaries in the world. So first, in revenue is Germany. Second is Australia, and now we are the 3rd one, representing 10% of the total revenue of Fronius worldwide. And the business unit that is responsible for this growth, that is the solar business. So I just want to share some numbers of the market in terms for the solar market in Brazil. So you can see that from 2016 to 2019, and we don't have the numbers until this year, but you can see how is the growth of this new renewable energy in Brazil. So it's today, it's being applied in many roofs around Brazil, also ground installations, and it's an exponential growth. This year, 2020, of course, because of the coronavirus, the growth will not be like this one you have experienced in the last 2 years, but is still growing, so it is quite good. So we are, and also Fronius is participating of this growth. Some about our numbers, the number of inverters that we are selling since in 2015. So you also can see that we are doubling the volume year after year. And of course, this year we will not sell like last year, but comparing to 2018 or 2 years ago, we are still making the double of the volume. And this is a quite a new technology that I'd like to present you. That is a launching of Fronius this year. It's also, as my Austrian colleagues from Advantage Austria told you, Austria is very well known about the technology products. And this is a new concept that Fronius just developed. And this year it became commercial. So we have 2 projects this year to implement with this new concept, is this which you call Sol Hub. This is a ecosystem that you have the solar business here, the solar generator, and with the inverter. So you can see the solar panels and the inverter here. Then it provides energy to electrolyzer, where you have the break of the water in hydrogen, and then we stock hydrogen here, and in the fuel cell here. So we have this complete project to provide the new, together with renewable energy, to refuel the cars and especially buses with hydrogen and electric cars. So how this works, but I already explained it. So we have the renewable or the green hydrogen here, the electrolyzer, the hydrogen storage, and the dispenser that we can fulfill cars, trucks, buses, and forklifts. So yeah, this is a picture of our company with most of the people here. So in Brazil, we have 102 people working here. Fronius worldwide has about 5,000 employees. And so, as I told you, we are representing now the 10% of revenue in the 3rd position of the subsidiaries. So it's quite good numbers for our headquarters. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Alexandre, for your wonderful presentation. Congratulations for the performance of Fronius do Brasil. Really a very high performance, as we have seen your presentation. So we're going to switch to our last speaker today. This will be Gustavo Bonini, who is the Director of Institutional and Governmental Affairs of Scania Latin America. Gustavo, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is.
Thank you, Felipe, so much. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be here today and have this dialogue and see these great presentations we could see so far. It puts a lot of pressure to my discussion here, but I hope I can contribute also talking about a little bit about Scania, but also talking about our purpose. That is driving the shift for a more sustainable transport system. That's what we want to do. That's what we are doing. So we know we are part of the problem. We want to be part of the solution, delivering a more fossil-free transport systems for people, for goods, and for contributing with the society for this. In Brazil, Scania is for 63 years, so it's very traditional and one of the first automotive companies to be established here in the great São Paulo area, where we have a factory with over 4,000 employees, delivering a global product. So we also have the strategy here in our factory to produce global products with a modular system. And that strategy help us also not only to provide our solutions here in Brazil and Latin America, but also to be of a help in a Scania world and also to export for other continents as Africa, Middle East, Asia, and also support our production facilities in Europe when it's necessary. So it is indeed a global product that we have invested a lot in this factory here, also to deliver all the sustainable solutions we have that I will talk in a couple of minutes. But that's what we are doing so far, and that's the journey we want to have. So before giving more detail about this journey that we have, I would like to share a video that address one of the solutions, one of the alternative renewable solutions we have that we see as a big opportunity in the country, in Brazil. Then I will continue my presentation. So,
waste is a growing global problem. A mere 25% of all garbage worldwide is recycled, composted, or digested. 1/3 of all food produced goes to waste, including almost half of all the fruit and vegetables grown. Basically, all organic waste ends up in landfills. There, it decomposes and creates methane and carbon dioxide, which are released into the atmosphere with dire consequences. Landfills leaking toxics and chemicals that poisons our soils and freshwater supplies for no good reason. Yet, at the same time as the garbage heaps are piling up, in some places, a small revolution is taking place. In Sweden, 99% of all household waste is recycled and transformed into animal feed, biofertilizer, and energy. The landfills are basically gone, and instead of being a problem, waste has become a resource as food scraps and other organic waste are used to produce biogas, bioethanol, and biodiesel. Locally produced fuel leads to better environmental solutions and clean, low-carbon buses and trucks on a global scale. This means not only attractive transport, but also fewer landfills, lower carbon dioxide emissions, and less use of fossil fuels, improving environment and health, creating local jobs, and reducing climate change. Scania and our partners offer complete waste-to-fuel solutions with proven technology addressing your city's waste, energy, and emissions challenges. You can't run from the waste problem, but you can drive away from it in a Scania bus.
Good. So this video was showing one of the solutions, one of the alternative renewable solutions that we have with the biogas. I like this example pretty much because I think it's one of the best examples for the circular economy. So we are addressing an environmental problem and transforming this to a fuel or power asset. And that's how we address sustainability at our company. I mean, it's just not only the environmental aspect, but it's the three pillars: the environmental, but also the economic aspect and also the social aspect. So finding solutions that can generate job, can generate knowledge, working together with the academia, with the public power, and also providing solutions that are already economically sustainable for the countries is very important. For the gas, for example, for the biogas, there is a study in Brazil showing that 70% of the diesel used for transport could be automatically substituted by the biogas because of the huge amount of biomass that we already have in the country, not only with the water treatment and the landfills, but also take into consideration the big and the huge amount of the agribusiness that we have, that of course produce a lot of waste that could be used to produce biogas, and then this could be used for this transportation system. So we are working in this matrix, also finding solutions to be more energy efficient, working with the connected vehicles and the smart vehicles that are also connected to a more sustainable transport solutions, and talking about, as I said, with the fuels or different fuels. I showed there the example of the biogas, but I mean, of course, we are working with the electrification and hybrid vehicles. We have also ethanol solutions. We have HVO and the biodiesel. So it was very interesting to see last year in the FENATRAN, in the biggest transport fair in Brazil, and the year before in Germany, in Europe, in the fair that we have in our stand, most of the vehicles or all the vehicles running with alternative renewable fuels and with electrification. So showing that we have right here, right now, solutions that can meet the highest standards for having a more green transport system. We have over the last years investing a lot of our factory here, and in this all this new technologies that we have. We launched this gas and biogas vehicle last year. We already have many business cases ongoing this year, even with the COVID and all the consequences of the downturn of the economy. But you see that the society is demanding for solutions. So we can, talking to the customers of our customers, we see there is this demand for a more sustainable transport system. And people are finding in these solutions the answer for this system. So we have an example, a very interesting example of the orange juice export in Brazil that is done mainly in the state of São Paulo, going from the countryside of the state and exporting through the Santos Harbor, that is the biggest harbor in Brazil. And I mean, they have in this orange producer of juice highest standard of sustainable production for the juice, but also they see the demand to control the complete chain, the complete supply chain with a sustainable transport solution. So that's why they came to us and finding in the gas and in transportation with the gas, the answer for the demanding that they were receiving abroad for having a complete green solution from the production, from the transport until the export, until reaching the markets. So that is very good, and that I think it will be very important in the next years to come to look into that solution. I saw today that it was about the discussion about the Mercosur and European Union. I think this will be great to take place in the incoming years. I think that the increase of trade between these two blocks, it will be extremely very important for business to take place and to be more smooth and more stable. This will be very good. I think it was a very good initiative to have this deal done. I think it also covers the three important pillars for all agreements, all trade agreements that are done. I mean, you see the previsibility, the predictability for the agreement is gradual, showing the decrease of import taxes for the products. So time enough for the companies to get prepared for this, and also to challenge the system to be more competitive, and also taking the right sequence of openness. So open with the components, with parts, and then the complete vehicles to be able to be imported and to have this exchange. And I think sustainability will take an important role in the future, also with these new trades. Also to mention that I mentioned now more about Brazil, but also this is taking place for the complete Latin America as pushing for different alternatives. We have this factory here, as I mentioned before, exporting to not only Latin America but other continents. But we are glad to mention that we have a very high volume business with Colombia, with the chassis buses run by gas. We also have a business with the other countries like Chile and Argentina and so on. And this all environment is very important now to also taking place in the perspective of the world and in this flexible trade agreements that are about to come. So we hope that this is also a trend, that we also have more and more opportunities to come. Brazil has just finalized also a deal with Mexico. So this also put an opportunity for Brazilian products to exchange when it comes to the automotive sector. So it will be also an important step forward to include our products in the Mexican market. We do have our market there, but so far we need to import from Europe. So it will be possible to export from Brazil, keeping the complete supply chain network within Latin America. So that's it for my side. I hope I managed to demonstrate a little bit our challenges also for the near future, and I'm open for questions and for dialogue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gustavo, for your very interesting notes. Thank you for presenting us Better Scania Latin America. Congratulations also for what you've been performing in Brazil. So we are running a little behind schedule, but I think we can take 10 more minutes together because we have some very interesting questions that have been made on YouTube. So I'm going to share this question with you, and we're going to have a little debate at least for 10 minutes, if that's okay. So I would like to invite all of you to switch on your cameras so that we can have a little talk together now. And first question that I have here is a very interesting question that is directed more to the companies, but of course, Advantage Austria and Business Sweden can help us with a further answer on that. The question is, do you have at Scania and at Fronius R&D centers or R&D activities, R&D capabilities here in Brazil of your companies? Who wants to start? Alexandre?
Yeah, I can start. More or less, let's say, is the best answer. Actually, the R&D to develop the products is in Austria only, and there we have more than 500 employees, engineers working to develop products. In Brazil, we don't have the R&D of products, but we have, let's say, R&D of services, because in case of welding machines and perfect charging business units, we needed to test those products and customize those products to the customers. So basically, we have to have some engineers that can work together with the partners and the customers to find the best setup of the machines. In case of solar business, is a little different because it's a product that is already ready for the market. So we don't do any R&D in Brazil.
Thank you, Gustavo. On your side.
Thank you so much for the question. Very good question. And yes, we do have research and development here. I think this is part of the good collaboration and collaboration within the company, but also when comparing and also taking advantage of the cooperation Brazil and Sweden. So we do have in our factory more than 250 engineers working with product development. They work in combination with the head office, of course. But what we also take the advantage of the field test in Brazil. So since we have a huge country with thousands of kilometers of roads, so we also can test our vehicles here. We also have our engineers, also our suppliers and the academia that can develop solutions that can be applied worldwide. So we can proudly mention as well, I talked about gas. So Brazil and the team in Brazil, in cooperation with the head office in Sweden, is leading the new changes in the new development of the gas vehicles, taking the advantage of the gas possibilities and opportunities in Brazil. So yes, indeed, and I think that's again one advantage of this cooperation, that I think it's also not only for production but also for research and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Very nice to hear, because this is what ENRICH is about, right? ENRICH in Brazil is about strengthening the relationship between Europe and Brazil for science, technology, research, development, and innovation. Jacob, Marianne, Andrea, do you have something you want to complement on having R&D centers of European companies, Swedish companies, Austrian companies in Brazil?
Well, I can just comment that when we do an inventory of the Swedish companies here in Brazil, many of them do have their central research and development centers back home in the head office or in Sweden or elsewhere. But there are several cases where we also see an increased investment in Brazil. Scania is one of them, a good example. Ericsson, another one, where they are putting up 5G capacities and developments in 5G here in Brazil now. So yeah, I think Brazil has a good opportunity to take a bigger role in that, because you have the competences here.
Thank you. Jacob, Marianne, on your side, any comments from Advantage Austria on R&D in Brazil? We cannot hear you, Jacob. You are switched off. Please switch on your microphone, Jacob or Marianne, so that we can hear you.
Hi.
Sorry.
That's good.
Not
All
both
right.
of us are on.
But, yes, I think like Andrea says, Brazil has most Austrian companies have the R&D in Austria, but I think it is there is lots of opportunities here, in Brazil for that. There's lots of specialized professionals, people with skills here in Brazil, and I think it's a next step, I guess, for all companies to improve that, to have R&D here in Brazil.
Thank you. Jacob.
Yeah, I can just take my colleague's comment. I think that's absolutely true. There's a lot of very specialized professionals here in Brazil. There's a lot of potential, and I think that a lot of more companies from Austria can shift their R&D to Brazil. There's a lot of potential here. That's basically it.
Great. So we can make plenty of collaboration, right, between Europe and Brazil for research, development, innovation. Now we have another very interesting question, which is much more directed to the representative of the countries, that is Advantage Austria and Business Sweden. But of course, the companies can complement with some information. The question is the following. So we've seen a little bit of the challenges that both you have presented in terms of making business in Brazil. There are challenges everywhere in the world, right? But we would like to know better how to increase the interest of Austrian, Swedish, let's say European companies in Brazil. And how do you think that Brazil could be a higher priority target in terms of technological collaboration for your countries? Who wants to start?
Well, I can start, or go ahead.
Andrea, please.
Okay. Well, I think, it's a broad question, of course, and that's part of our responsibility as well, to really work on promotion and get the eyes up of Brazil. But if I should list just three things, I would say, clearer communication on the business conditions. No investors like to go into something that is uncertain. And within that box, you find the EU Mercosur agreement as well. So the more we can be clear on how will that actually come out, and that will help the investors to take the decisions needed. Secondly, showing good examples, continue to do that. There are a lot of good examples. We've heard a few today. And finally, the media picture. I know that's hard to change in a way, and you shouldn't. The media is free, but I think it's not a balanced picture that is transmitted always back to Europe. I think it's too much on the challenges rather than on the opportunities. So I think that's a mission we can all work on.
Thank you. Well, we are working on that right now at this very moment, showing some very good examples of very interesting success stories.
Yeah.
Marianne, Jacob, on your side, what would you say?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I mean, as both our colleague from Sweden and my colleague Marianne mentioned before, there are a lot of challenges with doing business in Brazil. I mean, most of the challenges are things that you have to that cannot be solved from one day to another. The vast corruption, the incredible bureaucracy. But Brazil has done a lot in the last few years to work on that. To work on reforms to reduce the bureaucracy, the red tape. That's a very important part of it, to actually promote investment in Brazil. Obviously, corruption is a bit more difficult, but I think reforms generally are absolutely important, both for the companies that are operating here in Brazil and for improving their interest or increasing their interest. But these are things, obviously, given the current circumstances, a bit more difficult. I think giving good examples is absolutely important. Initiatives like ENRICH is a very good example of how to improve that. What we're doing here, giving good examples with companies from Sweden, from Austria that are operating here. Bit difficult. Everything at the moment, it's a bit hazy through the cloud smokes from the Pantanal. But apart from that, it's I think giving good examples is a very, very important step. And this is also a lot of our work of, promoting investment in Brazil to our home countries.
Thank you, Jacob. Marianne, would you like to have something maybe on the technological perspective of this presenting Brazil abroad? Your microphone.
I think I really like the idea that communication and can improve that, especially when it comes to technology in Brazil, because we don't have that that tradition of being known as a technologically advanced or innovative country. And getting past that, it's really hard, I believe. But every day, it's about sending the message. It's about giving good examples, because I see good examples every day. I read about them, and I tried. And the thing is to show that to people, because Brazil, I think Brazil, although it has lots of issues, the idea is to get past them and to see that business can still go on here in Brazil and can still, there is lots of room to grow, lots of room for business. For example, I was reading about China is one of the most bureaucratic countries in the world, and people do business there. So the idea is I like the idea of the communication, to know where people, to orient people where they should go, so you do this and you follow that, and knowing what the outcome, and expressing that to the company, and making them feel safe here in Brazil. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you, Marianne. You're absolutely right. There are problems, issues everywhere in the world, right?
Right.
And we are here exactly for that, for improving things, and for showing that there are also plenty of opportunities we can work on. I would like to extend a little bit this question to Gustavo and Alexandre. You two are actually representative, right, of Brazil for your metrics in Austria and in Sweden. So how do you see this image of the technology, science, innovation in your metrics? And how do you think that companies can also present what are the opportunities, technology opportunities in Brazil? Who wants to start? Gustavo, maybe. Yeah.
I can start. Well, I think I like this idea of looking to the glass half empty or half full when it comes to the opportunities. And I do see these opportunities. I mean, this trend to have a more open market, this trend that things are more connected all over the world and including Latin America. So we were talking about as just an example of sustainability, because it's pretty much connected to innovation. So you have to be innovative. You have to have innovative solutions to cope with the sustainability. So you see this worldwide. It's something that it belongs to the people now. People wants and demanding this. So for the companies to do business in a country that's, let's say, maybe a little bit behind with the latest development as a total, I think it's another opportunity. So there are so many, every side you see, there is something that you can put your technology, your innovation, invest in research, in development, in the conjunction and the partnership with suppliers, with the public power and with academia to make a growth in this and follow the best solutions and benchmark what is going best in the world. So I think it is a lot of opportunity. I think even though we have all the challenges and we still have, there were developments in the last couple of years. So you see that the reforms are coming up. I think it goes back and forth, but in the end, I see much better than a couple of years ago. I used to work with the foreign trade, so very much connected to customs. So I mean, it was 20 years ago, I would say, oh my God, what we have today. We still have room for improvement. But if we compare long over the years, it has improved actually. So I'm positive. I think it's an opportunity that we have right now. Again, I want to mention about the European Union and the Mercosur trade agreement. I think this is a huge improvement. I'm looking forward for this agreement to take place. I think the exchange of knowledge, of expertise, of technology will go much faster in the near future, and I'm very confident that this will take place. I'm very optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Alexandre, what would you add on top of that, taking into account that you are the third largest revenue, right, in Brazil of Fronius?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Actually, I cannot compliment so much. I think my colleagues already summarized almost everything. But what I'd like to say is that Brazil, it's very important for Fronius, actually. And you saw that you are the third subsidiary in the world. And this is because of the solar business. So if you take this business, we are in the exponential growth. Brazil has, as a country, has an enormous potential of growth. So we have more than 200 million people. So there are not many countries in the world with so many people that you can. So it's a very big consumer market. And of course, Brazil is normally one or two steps behind the technology in Europe or in US or some other technology centers. But this is also, as Gustavo said, is a very big opportunity, because we can introduce here technologies that is already mature in some other countries, and then you can make a lot of business and a lot of money with those technology that is already tested in other areas in the world. So Brazil, also Fronius believes pretty much in Brazil and potential of Brazil. So this is for technology, as my colleagues already said, we have lots of opportunities, and also we have many engineers here also. So this is also very important. So man work is not a problem here. So we can contribute a lot and also export solutions. With our adaptability that we have in Brazil, we can also bring technologies and we can improve technologies here in Brazil with our opportunities, not issues, but opportunities we have in the country.
Thank you so much, Alexandre, also for giving us all these very important insights. Unfortunately, we are getting to the end of our first roundtable, but I would like to give the floor once again to Mr. Michele Villani, our representative from the European Commission, so that he can maybe deliver us his final message on the partnership between Europe and Brazil, maybe on the perspective of science, technology, and innovation. Michele, please, what would be your conclusion notes?
Yes, indeed, absolutely. Thank you very much for this very interesting discussion. Certainly, I've noted the hopes of many of the speakers to have this agreement, EU-Mercosur, enter into force. We are working relentlessly towards this goal. It's not always easy because there is a big discussion, as you are aware, about sustainability, about deforestation, about the Brazil's commitment to deforestation, to climate change, to biodiversity, and so on. And these commitments are enshrined into the trade and sustainable development chapter of the agreement, as I was saying before. So the agreement will certainly make a difference in this respect, in terms of meeting in terms of favoring a green recovery. And we are very much working in this direction to support after COVID, after with the crisis we are going through, a green recovery which is based on sustainability, on the sustainability fundamentals that are very strong here in Brazil. But the agreement as such will provide a big opportunity, not only in the sustainability area, but also for green and innovative investments. We, as I was saying in my initial intervention, the increased possibility of having innovative investments that will increase the technology opportunities for both European and Brazilian companies will be there. And in the science and technology is an important area of this agreement, is an important area where increased investments can help, and we should simply work towards the signature and the implementation of this agreement to see investments increase, to see green recovery take up and take over, and to have more innovation and more science and technology opportunities for our companies, both here and in Brazil. So as I've noted for a number of interventions, this agreement will make the real difference. It will help Brazil become less protectionist, more liberal economy, more integrated into global value chains, and will also support innovative investments for the growth and transformation of the Brazilian economy. So we're very much working at full steam to have this agreement signed and then ratified for it to develop and to unleash all the possible economic benefits out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michele Villani. That's a wonderful conclusion. So I would like to thank again Michele Villani. Thank you so much also Mariana Schaefer, Jacob Lassar, Andrea Reitner, Alexandre Borin, Gustavo Bonini. It was really a great honor and great pleasure to have you guys today. Thank you so much also to all of you who are watching us on YouTube. Stay tuned on ENRICH in Brazil. Very soon we'll have further roundtable with other countries of the European Union with the same dynamics of listening to some good experiences and learning together. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day and see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
See you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.